Greetings, citizens. Hey you beautiful creepy human being you. Welcome to my channel and welcome to today's true crime video. I'm so happy we could meet like this. I'm so happy that somehow in all of this that we're forced to deal with on the day-to-day, today you and I were able to find each other on this crazy little planet that we call home. My name is Brittany or Bratterstein, whichever you prefer, and today we're going to be discussing the tragic murder of Imani Roberson. But before we get started, if you have not yet had the pleasure, please make sure to join the Brat Pack by subscribing and ringing that bell. I put out a new video every single week, sometimes 2 a week, and I would love to hang out with you. Yes, you, specifically you, but I can only do that if you join the Brat Pack and become one of us. One of us, one of us, one of us. Now, before we get into the details of today's case, I first need to say a big thank you to the sponsor of today's video, and that is Toon Blast. Now, you guys may already know, if you don't, now you will know that I really like playing games on my phone. It helps me unwind and decompress after looking into, reading about, researching some of the absolute worst things that anyone should ever hear about, that should ever happen to anyone. It's a lot on the brain, so I like to decompress after that. Or just after spending the entire day in mom mode and I'm finally getting a moment that's just for me, I like to play games on my phone. And I like adorable, cute little animals. And that's why when I heard about Toon Blast, I was like, oh, this is right up my alley. And it turned out that I was totally right. Toon Blast is a free-to-play mobile game that you can download on all devices, where basically there are over 7,000 levels with these cute little characters called the Toon Gang. I know, so cute. And you help them travel to magical worlds by solving puzzles, by creating combos, and blasting cubes to pass the levels. Like, okay, you see this rocket right here? This is my favorite part. Watch, you click it, and it's going to blast everything to bits. And you like feel the little zzz in your phone, in your hand, right? You know what I'm saying? And I find it to be so satisfying. And in addition to the main levels, they also have these fun and challenging mini games that you can play to claim rewards in the game. You can play alone, or you can join a team and play with others and win rewards. You can play with people literally all over the world and join these events to win these prizes. It's really fun. And the best thing is you don't have to have Wi-Fi to play it. Well, actually, that's one of the best things. You don't have to have Wi-Fi to play it. And another thing that's great is they don't have ads in this game, so you can continue to play as long as you want with no interruptions. If you download Toon Blast for free through my link, you will get 3 hours of unlimited lives and 100 coins that you can use in the game. And I think you'll really like it because Toon Blast has millions of reviews and high ratings on the App Store and Google Play. With that said, download Toon Blast through my link that's going to be in the description box, a pinned comment, or you can just scan the QR code that's literally been on the screen the entire time, and then start having fun playing Toon Blast just like I have been lately today. Now, I want to say a big thank you to Toon Blast for partnering with me on today's video. It's sponsors like Toon Blast that make it possible for me to put out videos as consistently as I do. And a big thank you to you guys for always being so supportive of all of my sponsors. You rock. Don't ever change. Alright, let's go ahead and get into this video now. This video is on a case that I didn't realize was actually pretty recent. So I came upon Imani's case while I was researching another case that I believe was in the same area, now that I'm thinking about it. That's probably why I found both of them around the same time. But first off, I was drawn in by Imani's picture. Something about her just made me want to learn about her. So I go and I start reading about what happened to her, what they believe happened to her. And I was just like, holy shit, like it's horrible. And then I realized how recent it was because Imani actually went missing in July of this year. And this month, August of this year, the second person has been arrested in connection with her disappearance and her murder. So obviously we don't have all the details on this case because it is a pending case, but I wanted to find out everything I could because I was just compelled, I was drawn to her case. So now I have read all the things so you do not have to, and I'm going to tell you the entire story today. Now, at the end of this video, I'm going to ask you a question of the day. I'm going to give it to you now so you can have it kicking around in your brain as we go through the details, but obviously I want you to answer once you have some information to go on. But the question of the day is this. What do you believe was the motive for Imani's murder? Because right now it seems unclear. They have some ideas, but they haven't released everything. And I just kind of want to know what you think at this point. So let me know all your thoughts in the comments below after we go through the details of this case. Now, with all of that said, come gather around and let me tell you the story of the tragic murder of Imani Roberson. Our story begins on July 27th, 2023, and this was in southwest Atlanta. Police were responding to a call that led them to Camp Creek near Union Road, and this is where they found the remains of a burnt-up vehicle. The vehicle had clearly been set on fire intentionally, and once officers got there and they were able to determine that this car was actually a white Mazda, I have to believe that they knew pretty instantly who this car belonged to. And they must have had a sinking feeling in their stomach because it was confirmed that this vehicle belonged to a woman who had been missing for about a week and a half, that people had been frantically searching for. And this was a mother of 4 named Imani Serafina Roberson. So now they had found her vehicle, but where was Imani? Imani Roberson was last seen by her family on July 16, 2023, when she was leaving her mother's house in Conyers, which is a suburb that's about 24 miles east of Atlanta. Now, her having dinner with her mother was a totally normal thing. This is something they did often. They didn't live super far from each other, only a couple of minutes away. And Imani was actually in the process of moving in with her mother, so she had been spending more time at her mother's home lately. It was Sunday, and Imani and her 4 kids were having dinner again with her mother. And when dinner was over at about 5:30 p.m., Imani left with 2 of her children. This was a 3-year-old and a 1-month-old. And she was planning to go back to her home, the place she was currently living. She was going to stay there that night, and she was going to pick up some more of her items before coming back to her mother's. Her 2 older kids, who were 11 and 9, 2 boys. All of her kids are boys, by the way. She has 4 boys. Her 2 older boys, who were 11 and 9, were going to be spending the night with their grandmother. So she leaves with the 2 younger kids, and this is the last time that she is seen alive. The very next day in the afternoon, the day after having dinner together, Clarine, which was Imani's mother, started to feel a little bit weird because Imani hadn't called her. And this was weird for her because she and her mom talked all the time. They talked like every day. And even if there was some scenario where she didn't really feel like talking to her mom that day, you would think she would have at least called to check on her kids because her mom had her kids, but she hadn't. So Clarine calls Imani but gets no answer, and then she gets no call back. And again, this was very weird. It was very out of character for her. So she tries to call her again a little bit later, and again, there's no answer. At that, she actually got in her car and drove over to Imani's house. Again, it wasn't far. They were in the same neighborhood, so it wasn't really like an inconvenience for her to go over. So she drives over. When she gets there, Imani's not there. And this gives her a bad enough feeling that she's like, something is definitely wrong here. And this is when she calls and reports her daughter missing. Authorities immediately opened an investigation, talking to friends and relatives and searching locations that Imani often went, including her home. They even did aerial searches, but there was no sign of her. No one had seen her. No one had heard from her. And they looked in several places, right? They searched several cars, and they also looked into her cell phone records. And they also looked into the cell phone records of other people, though it hasn't been released who these people were, and everything is alleged. I have an idea of who it was, and I think it's the person they ended up arresting, but police haven't come out and said who it was, so it's allegedly somebody. I mean, it definitely is somebody, but they haven't said who it is. Police were also able to tell from investigators were investigating, right? And they were able to tell that the last place Imani's car had been seen was actually at an apartment complex called the City Central Apartments, and this was in Atlanta. And this was an apartment complex where someone who Imani knew lived. And again, I think this is the same person who the cell phone records were linked to, who was eventually arrested for this. Between the 17th and the 19th of July, police were gathering all kinds of evidence to put like the puzzle pieces together to see a full picture on what might have happened here. And everything that they had put together led them to believe that they needed to get a search warrant and search Imani's home more thoroughly. After searching Imani's home, it seems clear that police kind of pivoted a bit and started believing, or started knowing, working under the assumption that foul play was involved in Imani's disappearance. And this is because when they searched her home, they found blood. How much blood hasn't been made clear, but it was clearly enough to make investigators go, huh, and think foul play is involved, because they said that blood was found in her home, but there was also blood found in multiple other places that weren't disclosed specifically. But her family, despite this, tried to hold out hope. Her mother, Clarine, did a press conference at the Rockdale County Sheriff's Department where she asked the public for anything, any little bit of information that could help her bring her daughter home. And then she said specifically, quote, "Over the course of the last 20 years, I have lost 3 children. Please help me bring Imani home. Anyone who thinks they may have seen her or the car, please, there is no detail too small. We really need your help. Imani really loves her children. I know she would never leave her children or myself. Please help me reunite these babies with their mother." Now, it really does seem like the local police in this area, like the local police, right? Okay. It seems like they were doing the most to locate Imani right from the very beginning. The lead investigator on this case, I believe his name is Levitt, said that right off the bat, they invited other agencies in. They weren't like keeping it all to themselves. He brought in the GBI, Georgia State Patrol, and other agencies to help them look for Imani. It really seems like egos were not playing a part here in like stopping these people from seeing the bigger picture, which was bringing this mother home. And that was refreshing to see because we often don't see that kind of response for a missing person. They even brought in cadaver dogs to start searching locations that they had deemed worthy of searching. Now, how we got to these locations specifically, it hasn't been said, but they brought in the dogs to search. And Levitt said, like, we're going to find out what happened here. We're going to bring somebody in and arrest them for the fact that Imani is missing, and they're going to have to explain why she's not here right now. They then gave a description of Imani to the public so they could be on the lookout, tell the police if you did see her, if you go on to see her, give any information you could. Imani was described as 5 foot 2 inches tall with a small build. She was said to have her hair in knotless braids with a red tint. She wore glasses or contacts, and she had a tattoo of like an entire sleeve on her arm. And then Levitt ended this by saying, quote, "I have assured the family that we are going to find her daughter. We're going to find out why her daughter is missing, and so we're urging the community to assist us with that." A week and a half went by without police having any answers as to where Imani had went and what may have happened to her. But after a week and a half, they finally got some news, but it didn't look like it was going to be anything good. On July 27, 2023, police found Imani's charred SUV in an isolated area nearly 30 miles away from her home along some power lines. The vehicle was found on a property off of Camp Creek Parkway near Union Road, and it had clearly intentionally been set on fire. The car was towed away, but you could see there were photos that were taken after the fact, and there were remnants of the car still on the ground. You could even see like her Mazda logo was still on the ground. In finding this vehicle, Levitt did another press conference in which he said, like, this obviously doesn't look good, but Imani is still missing. The car was here, but she was not, so we need to still be searching for her. We need to not give up on finding her. And it was at this point that he said they're now bringing in additional agencies and more cadaver dogs because now they have an area that they can actually search. Like this area is obviously a place that they really need to look, so they were bringing these agencies and these dogs to look in this area now that somebody had presented this to them. Her father was not feeling confident once the car was found. I mean, he already wasn't confident. He said that he did not believe even for a second that Imani would have left on her own, that she wouldn't leave her kids. Because, like, I didn't even mention this, but only Imani is missing. Remember, she left her mother's house with 2 kids. And she went missing, but the kids were fine. It didn't say where the kids were recovered from, how long they were by themselves, anything like that. But they were recovered, and the kids are now in the custody of her parents. But for her to just disappear, leaving both of her kids, which, by the way, she had just given birth. She had a 1-month-old baby. That's just not something she would do. And now that her car was found burnt up, this was just confirmation to her father that this wasn't going to end up good. He also had additional information that would lead him to believe that something bad had happened here. He came out and talked about the fact that he had some video from that day. And basically the video that he had was from a Ring doorbell camera that was from the house that was directly across the street from Imani's house. And it was from about the same time that Imani would have been getting home from her mother's. Now the video is grainy, but he said it's what you hear that makes him believe that she's no longer alive, because you don't really see much. In this video, there's like a bug flying in front of the camera, but then a few seconds later, you hear a loud noise, and he's convinced that this loud noise you hear is a gunshot. Now, I have not seen it confirmed by police that this was a gunshot, but during a press conference, her dad said that somebody did tell him, like somebody in a position of power told him that that's exactly what it sounded like. And if that wasn't bad enough, right after you hear that loud noise, Imani's SUV, which was in the driveway, all of a sudden backs out at a high rate of speed and takes off. And so even though it hasn't been determined, like confirmed, that this was a gunshot, her father says he wholeheartedly believed that that's what he heard. And he said, quote, "I believe they shot and killed Imani." Now, I don't know if he's right about that, but what I do know is that shortly after finding Imani's car, they did discover her body. A cadaver dog had been searching in the area where Imani's car was burned, or as one article referred to this dog, a canine officer. I know, but this dog had been searching in the area where Imani's car was found burnt up, and several miles away from where the car was located, this dog came upon her remains. They were able to make a visual identification based on photos they had of Imani, of her tattoos, and of the description that was given of her from her family. Now, police did not release her cause of death, but she had been out there at this point for several weeks, so it's possible that they couldn't even tell by looking at her what her cause of death was. But I mean, they were able to visually determine that it was her, so maybe they could. They're just not saying it. Now, it did not take police long to make an arrest after Imani's body was found. Basically, within hours after her being found, an apartment complex that was in Southwest Atlanta, which I believe was the same apartment complex where her SUV was last seen, was actually raided by a SWAT team. A SWAT team came down and they made an arrest of one person. This was a 22-year-old man named Donnell Anderson, and this was Imani's husband. Levitt said of this arrest, quote, "When the body was found, it was our mission, especially mine, to make sure that we could convince our judges and our DA's office that we have enough evidence to secure a warrant and to get him off the street." Now, it seemed from the very beginning that a lot of people thought he must be involved, like right away. And I'm going to give you a list of reasons why they thought this. 1, Imani had just had a baby. His baby. This baby is 1 month old. And now your wife goes missing and this baby is in the custody of her parents, but he didn't make any attempt to see this child. 2, somehow the 2 children who had been in Imani's care arrive home safely, and they're like, how did this happen? Why would somebody who's just going to go off and kill her make sure that the kids were safe? 3, her husband never reported her missing, never went out and searched for her, never did a press conference, didn't even attend the press conferences that the police put out, never begged for her safe return. In the beginning, the lead investigator said that they were not estranged, so it wouldn't make sense for him not to be there. But then at the same time, her mother did say that Imani was in the process of moving in with her, and he was living in another apartment. So I think it's safe to say that they were probably estranged. 4, allegedly he was caught on some flock cameras, which I'm actually not sure what that is. Somebody let me know in the comments. I'm sure one of you know. And also he had some very questionable cell phone pings around the time that Imani disappeared. And 5, police said that they responded to a call to Imani's home regarding domestic violence just a month before she was killed. So it seemed clear to a lot of people that he was most likely involved. I mean, he was arrested for it, so innocent until proven guilty, whatever. But people believed that he was involved. And they also believed that he didn't do it alone. Because, I mean, he went out there, he set the car on fire. How did he get home? And police seemed to believe this right away too, because Levitt came out pretty immediately and said that he could, quote, assure the public that there was going to be another arrest made in this case. It was just a matter of time. And he said specifically, quote, "If they know something, if they heard something, they should not wait for us to come to you, because it could be a bad outcome for you. And it's easier for you to come to us and tell us what you know." He then added, quote, "Put yourself in the shoes of this family. Put yourself in the shoes of this mother and father who not only just lost a daughter, they lost a daughter that has 4 children, that's as young as 1 month old. If you have a heart and you know something, you would call and give us information." Imani's mother came out and just said that in learning the news, her family was devastated because their worst fears, what they were really hoping wasn't going to be the case, but really felt deep down was the case, was coming true. Imani's father, Ronald, got very emotional during a press conference when he spoke out after her body was found, and to watch him kind of break apart, honestly, it was like a stab in the heart. It was incredibly difficult to watch. You could just see that this man is in a lot of pain, but he said that he had made peace with the fact that his daughter was gone before they had even found her, and that this wasn't the outcome that they were hoping for, but he's glad that they're going to be able to bring the people responsible to justice. He then added that this was not the first time he lost a child, that this wasn't going to break him, even though it seems like it would break a person, because he had already lost 3 children to the state of Georgia. And then he added that, he had seen all he could see, and he was already prepared for the news of her death. Despite their grief, they still came out and they thanked the public and they thanked the police department for helping them search for Imani, for putting all the resources they had into trying to find her, and for everybody rallying behind them while they searched. And they also thanked the media for elevating Imani's story and getting it out there so more people would know about what happened, which is crazy because I hadn't even heard about it until I was looking into another case. I feel like, I don't know, it just makes me sad that, I don't know, I can't explain it. It just makes me really sad when I haven't heard of a case, because I know it's not realistic to hear about every missing person's case, but I don't know, I just wish that I had heard about her case, but I didn't. And they said that right now their main focus is just taking care of Imani's 4 children, because these are 4 little boys who now do not have a mother. Levitt was there during this press conference and said that this family is going to need a lot of counseling and a lot of support. He really did not give up on Imani. He said that he would do everything he could to find her. That was a promise that was made, and he did. The department put well over 400 hours into trying to locate her. He then made a point to stress the dangers of domestic violence, which makes me think that there's little breadcrumbs here that make me think that there was something going on between Imani and her husband, or allegedly something going on between Imani and her husband, to make him say this, because this is something that's brought up a couple of times, domestic violence, and he urged for people who are in that situation to get out. He said there have been 4 or 5 murders in his area, and that every single one of them was domestic violence related. And then he said specifically, quote, "If there's anyone that's out here that's involved in a toxic relationship, whether you're receiving mental abuse, verbal abuse, and physical abuse, it is not worth staying quiet, and we need for you to step out and say something so we can end such tragedies like this." He ended saying, quote, "There are 4 kids now without a mother, and unfortunately, now without a father." The day after her body was found, it was announced that there was going to be a candlelight vigil held in front of Imani's house on Plantation Boulevard, and her family just asked that anybody that comes brings candles and purple and white balloons, which were Imani's favorite colors. 2 colors, her favorite colors. At the candlelight vigil and balloon release, there was a strong message that was given to everybody there, and it was about the dangers of domestic violence. Imani's father spoke to the crowd and said that he truly believed that if his daughter had been honest with what was going on, had told her family what was going on, she may still be alive. And then he decided to give a message to other men and women who might be in similar circumstances. He said that he really wants everyone, but especially young men, to really think about what they do when they're responding to large emotions. Levitt was one of the people who attended the candlelight vigil, and he reiterated what he had said in the press conference, where he said most of the murders in his area were domestic violence related. And he said that these murders really painted an awful picture about what's going on in the community there. He also added, quote, "Life is precious. We only get one life to live. It's best to just walk away. It's best to just reach out and get help and get out of toxic situations. You have 4 children who not only lost a mother, but they also lost a father to jail." So, Donnell Anderson, he was arrested and he was charged with felony murder, he was charged with malice murder, he was charged with aggravated assault, along with possession of a firearm during the commission to attempt a felony. Now, Imani's family was pretty devastated to learn that it was him. One of her sons, this was one of the sons that had been at his grandmother's house when his mother went missing, this was the 11-year-old, he said, quote, "Oh God, he took somebody's mom, my mom." And then the 9-year-old dude, the 9-year-old said, quote, "It felt like I died when I heard she died. It felt like my body left my soul." That's a 9-year-old who lost his mother. Imani's sister Patience was pissed. She called him a sociopath and a psychopath and said that this came out of absolutely nowhere, and that you have to be crazy to do something like this, especially just out of nowhere to the mother of your children. And then she added, quote, "You shouldn't have anything. You should lose everything." She said that he was dumb, not a gangster, but a coward. And she said that for weeks while her sister was missing, she couldn't sleep. She was having the worst night's sleep. She just couldn't get the thoughts out of her head. But now that he had been arrested, she was finally going to get a good night's sleep. She then added, quote, "I was looking at her baby last night. I don't understand how you could kill your baby's mother, but she also has 3 more. It's like you're killing them." She just seems really devastated because Imani just seemed like she was happy. She said that Imani seemed like she was at peace and she just wanted to have a family and she just wanted to have a happy life. And then this happened to her. When Donnell had his first appearance, he was represented by a public defender, but he was planning on getting his own attorney, supposedly. I don't know if that ended up happening, but during this hearing, Ronald, which was Imani's father, was there, and he was pissed. He told Donnell, "I want to put my hands on you so bad," and then told him that her family wins and he loses because he's never going to be on the streets again. And then he told the media, quote, "We're going to make sure that this malicious and malevolent person does not ever see the streets again." Now, you remember how the lead investigator on this case, Levitt, said right away that he could assure the public that another arrest would be made. Well, on August 8th, 2023, so about a week ago when I'm filming this, I don't know how many days when you're watching this because I got to move some stuff around if I want it to come out sooner, which I do. Another person was arrested, and this is because they had somebody in their mind right off the bat. It seems like, excuse me, I'm being presumptuous. It seems like they had somebody in mind right off the bat. And then police received a tip about where this guy was. His name was Cedarius, Cedarius, help me, Cedarius Glaze. He's 28 years old, and he is Imani's brother-in-law, Donnell's brother. Apparently, he had been out driving a truck, like a work truck at a job site, when police showed up and arrested him without incident. And he is being charged with tampering with evidence, concealment of a dead body, and arson. Police have come out and said that they have strong evidence to suggest that he played a key role in disposing of Imani's body. Now, it's unclear if he's entered a plea, and there isn't much information on him out there yet because, again, this is such a new case. The only thing I was able to determine about him, besides the fact that he was Donnell's brother, is that he did have some sort of record, though what he had a record for is unclear. The only reason I even know that is because in a reporting about him being arrested, they had a photo of him, and it was a mugshot, and they said that this mugshot was for an arrest that was unrelated to Imani's disappearance and murder, so an arrest that happened before that. But he, like Donnell, was going to be asking for his own attorney, and I don't know if I mentioned this, but both men were denied bail. Now, this case just keeps getting worse and worse. It seems like it's not going to, but then it does, because the day after Glaze's, I'm just going to call him Glaze because the first name is fucking me up. The day after Glaze's arrest, Judge Atten, who I believe is the judge who is presiding over this case, at least for this time, announced that on Donnell's arrest warrant, I'm sorry, this is really upsetting to me. On Donnell's arrest warrant, it stated that the 3-year-old and the 1-month-old were present at the time that Imani was killed. So this man murdered his wife in front of his kid. And it gets worse than that because the judge said that the 3-year-old audibly heard the incident, so he heard his mother get murdered. And then both kids were in the vehicle as her body was transported across like county lines. So they killed her in front of these kids and then drove with these kids, or he drove, whomever, allegedly, whatever, she was killed in front of the kids and then they were transported with her body when it was dumped. How? Like, how do you do that? I do not understand. But because of this, Donnell is also facing additional charges for like child abuse, child just fucking up a kid, basically. Specifically, it's cruelty to children. Now, during the hearing where this was announced, Judge Atten gave Imani's family permission to speak to Donnell directly, and they took this opportunity. Her mother said to him, quote, "I tried to get her away from you. You could have taken my life and not hers so she could raise her children. Taking a life is not good at all, and people like you will rot." So that's where we're at right now. These 2 men have been arrested. There is no word of additional people being looked into in connection with this case. And as of 8:15, her cause of death had not been revealed. But let me do a quick Google search to see if anything's changed since I did all my research. Pause. No, the last thing that was reported was that the medical examiner was performing an autopsy to determine her cause of death. And I'm sure that it has been determined already. It's just not been announced because I don't think it would take that long. Though I'm not sure, but my suspicion is that they know they're just not saying it yet. Now, to end this, I want to let you know that the family does have a GoFundMe page. Initially, the GoFundMe was to help raise funds to search for Imani, but now it is to help her 4 boys who are left without a mother. It's to help financially support those boys. Right now, they are with her parents, their grandparents, which 4 kids, 4 little boys, that is a hefty financial responsibility. And we are in the unique position, because it is such a new case, to actually be able to help. So if you can, it'll be linked down below. And of course, any dollar will help, because think about it. If every person gives $1, there's 30,000 of us here. That's $30,000. That's what people mean when they say every dollar helps, because I know it's one of those sentences that kind of just falls flat, but that's what it means, right? There's so many of us. Each dollar, it does make a difference, because this family has a long road ahead of them, and these boys have to try to make sense of a situation that should never, and probably never will, make any sense to them. And with that, my friends, is the story of the tragic murder of Imani Roberson so far. I hope that you found it to be informative, and I hope that my presentation of it made sense. And of course, I just want to thank you for remembering Imani with me today. Now, considering everything I've told you throughout this video, I want to revisit the question of the day, and that was this. What do you believe was the motive for Imani's murder? Because right now, where it stands, what I'm thinking is that she was in an abusive relationship and she was trying to leave. And as we've heard time and time again, and even in the cases I've covered recently and some cases that are coming in the future, this is the most dangerous time, is when the woman or the man, when the person who's being abused tries to leave. That's the most dangerous time. So I think perhaps she was trying to leave and he couldn't handle that and killed her for it. But that's just my theory based on the limited information we have. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Before you leave, please don't forget to leave me a comment in the comment section letting me know what case you'd like to see me cover in the future. I have a long list of cases, and whenever you leave me a suggestion, I put it on my list with your name next to it, so if I cover it, I can give you a shout out. I love looking into the cases you suggest because they're often cases I haven't heard of or cases that need more coverage, and I know you're filled with good ideas and good taste, otherwise you would not be here. If you haven't already, please don't forget to join the Brat Pack by subscribing and ringing the bell. I put out a new video every single week, sometimes 2 a week, and I'd love to hang out with you. Yes, you, specifically you. And if you want to hang out more consistently, all my social media is listed down below, along with a link to my membership where you can get early access to non-sponsored videos. I forgot English for a second. Priority comment responses, things like that. I want to say one more thank you to Toon Blast for sponsoring today's video. It sponsors like Toon Blast that make it possible for me to put out videos as consistently as I do. So make sure to download the app for free through my link in my description. Supporting the sponsor supports this channel. And a big thank you to you guys for always being so supportive of all of my sponsors. You rock. Don't ever change. And now with all of that said, I just want to thank you for being here when you could literally be anywhere else in the world. That is tight. You are tight. Please stay safe and be a better person than you were yesterday. And I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.